preparing to live stream the meeting. It's cranking itself up here.
And you got it recording?
Not yet. I'll hit recording when we get back, when we get over there. So let me. Here we go. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to eXp Worldwide. As we are going to do a little interview today. I got a guest here, Kevin Johnson. Now, the first 2 or 3 months I've done this, I was on my own. I was doing a monologue. I know that can be monotonous. I know it can sound boring and not enthusiastic. So I figured I needed a kickstand today. I needed a kick side here, somebody to help me out and help you guys get you motivated, get you fired up, and get ready for 2022. So what we're looking to do today is get you ready for 2022 and prepare you for what's to come. So that said, I've been in personal growth and development. I've been reading and studying this stuff for 30 years now. And I know how important it is to me, and for Kevin, I know how important it is to him. So 2022 is just 2 weeks away. And we're going to talk about success and goals and accountability and how to get ready for 2022. Now, quite frankly, most of us should already have done something towards that. But Kevin, welcome to the show here today. Kevin does some coaching. I'm sorry, Kevin does some coaching, consulting. I cut you off there, apologize. And so welcome to the show, and just share with us a little bit about who you are and what you do, and then we'll get into some questions here.
Awesome. Thanks, Rob. So my name is Kevin Johnson. I have been originally started working in accounting, worked in a tax practice for about 6 years, and then decided things needed to change for myself. And then I went to work for a consulting company in about 2000. And since then, I've been coaching, consulting, and even doing like offsite CEO work for clients for a number of years. And with a lot of them, it's help them working through glass ceilings, or helping a lot of them also find their way out of places where they're at so they can get into a better place. Sometimes and it's funny because I was working with a client last week and this week, and we were talking a lot about either solutions as it relates to the individuals and systems, or sometimes as it relates to the team or the individual. So, and I think, Rob, you would probably agree with me that where there's times where we can, as an individual, we can go look for every solution in the book, and sometimes it just comes back to us. Would you agree?
Oh, absolutely. Because we have to we use the word accountability. And sometimes personally, I don't like the word, because sometimes accountability means consequence, right? And you can use that to motivate some people. But I like the idea of capability. What are you capable of? And you know what you're capable of. I know what I'm capable of. And I think other people, they know what they're capable of, but they're afraid to go there, right? And then when you say it all comes down to you got to know what you want. You have to have an idea what you're capable of, and then you got to go get it. But I can't want it more than you. You can't want it more than me. Would you agree with that?
100%. 100%.
So how do we get people off the hump?
So there are, and we were having this conversation earlier today, where there are times where people don't like where they're at, and that can be the motivation for change. And then some people like the target. So for example, if you said, look, I'm going to go, and Shelly and I did this a couple of years ago, we went to Indonesia on a diving trip. Ultimately, that was the goal, flying halfway around the world and diving in a world-class location. That was the goal. Now, there's a lot of stuff that had to happen to make that work and to make it go well and have a great time. So the end destination, that was all the motivation in the world right there. But then some people, they hit this place where they hit kind of a low spot, or they're not happy. Like there's a couple of them I've talked to recently where they just say, I'm kind of in a funk, right? Or like financially, they want something different. There's ones where I know a couple right now where they want to retire a spouse, so they want to retire a parent or take care of a parent. Some of us are getting to that. Now, I'm not in that position, but I know some other folks in our range that, they have motivation to take care of a parent, and sometimes it's like, once you have that, and that's kind of like getting around to the other thing, which is you got to have a big why. you know, and once you have that big why, honestly, that's all the gasoline you need for that fire.
So tell me about that, because like you said, okay, you had a goal. You had to go to get to Indonesia, right? And swim. That was the big goal, and you had to get there. Sometimes they'll say, well, Jim Rohn says, make a goal for what it'll make of you. So you had to do a lot of things to get there. So,
Yep.
so we're going to talk about that a little bit, but then there's another question we got to ask, because look, we can assume, you and I can assume that everybody knows how to write a goal, but they might not know how to write a goal. So let's start with that. If you're saying, hey, I want to set some goals for 2022. How do I write that goal?
Well, you and I have probably been around the block long enough. We remember SMART goals, right? So,
Exactly.
you know, some people, and this is this. So if we said we want SMART goals, starting off with specific, right? So specific being, since we're talking to a lot of folks who do real estate, I want to do more. That's just too soft. Like that doesn't do it. That's not, obviously not specific. So it's like, tell yourself, I want to do 5 million. I want to do 10 million. I want to do 20 million, whatever the number is, doesn't matter. But I got to have something. And it's like the ones I was talking to this morning. It's like that number should go on your bathroom mirror. When you're sitting there brushing your teeth every morning, you got a reminder, 20 is my number. Anything I do today has got to be moving the needle towards 20, right? So, you know, that I think one of the biggest pieces, and one of the things that we had kind of talked about as well, is when you do create these goals, I think you also have to start getting into what are the actions that are required to get there, right? We have to find the things that are going to get us there. And again, I use the example of Indonesia. I like analogies because I think a lot of us can relate to those things. So it's kind of like saying, I got to drop a pant size or belt size. I got to get in different shape before going to cruise or going to another vacation or whatever it is, right? You have to figure out what it is that you have to do to get there. And whether that is, look, I'm going to work out 5 times a week and I'm going to do 4 sets every time I go. And then you also change your eating habits, and who knows, you'll blow past whatever your goal was. And it might be inches or pounds.
But the question is, why do you want that goal? Because you said it yourself a minute ago. What's the why behind it? What's the why behind losing the weight? What's the why behind getting a smaller pant size? What's the why?
Yeah. And you know, in like Indonesia, or even when Shell and I went on the trip out west last year, I worked out like crazy before I went on that trip last year, because we were going to be in the backcountry. We're near nothing, and you can literally get seriously hurt in the backcountry if you don't take care of yourself and you're not in decent shape, right? So, you know, I worked out like crazy. I was, as odd as it is, I did a lot of rowing. I did a lot of weight training. I did a lot of, you know, incline on the treadmill, just not running, just steady, you know, fast-paced walking kind of stuff. And once we got out there, it was like no big deal, you know, but it's preparing yourself for being there.
And so the preparation is part of it. And now we address the S, the specific. So when you say SMART goals, it's SMART. So we talked about the S. What's the M reference?
I'm actually, what's that?
Are you looking it up?
Well, it's kind of funny. It's like one of those things, you know, how sometimes you decide to, you're writing something out, and something that you, something like a word you normally know how to spell, you know, it's like, I've said it 1,000 times and I got to sit here and do it myself with the SMART goals. So SMART being specific, and then we got to go measurable, right?
Right.
Sorry. I was struggling with the M. I'm like, I know this, and I'm the numbers guy. Sorry.
Yeah, I'm sorry I put you on the spot there, because I struggled with it.
Hey,
Hey, Kevin, real quick to sidetrack you there. It was about 2 weeks ago. I was just talking about this exact subject with somebody, and he said, well, Rob, what's SMART goals? And I said, well, S is for smart. And they stopped me, and it's not smart, it's specific. So go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, it's fine. But you know, it's funny. I mean, and that's, there's probably a little something a takeaway from that too, because we're all going to get caught up in stuff periodically, and, you know, laughter and humility go a long way, you know, because it was like, again, we're talking about, there was once a time where when I worked for that other consulting company, I got a pretty large chunk of their more difficult clients. And when I say difficult, they may have just had high expectations. They were all nice people, but some of them could get really direct to the point of making some people get a little misty eyed, right?
Yeah.
And the funny part is like, I could sit there and smile at them and let them run their course and ultimately tell them they're wrong, but you just kind of have to smile and roll with it. It's because in the end, they want results too. So
Results, right.
yeah. So digression, going back to SMART goals, specific. So it's got to be measurable. And I kind of addressed it a little bit saying you got to be something that's like 5 million a year, 10 million, something like that.
You got to put a number to it.
What's that?
You got to put like a number to it, or a measurable stat to it.
Yeah. And so we were going through this exercise this morning. I don't know if you're familiar with Sisu, but so Sisu is kind of like a program that you can use, or a platform you can use to measure your real estate team performance. Probably not worth it for an individual, but something that's worth it if you got numbers of people.
We'll have to talk about that.
We'll talk about that. And I really do like it because it's, for those of you who use a lot of spreadsheets and things like that to kind of like assemble all the data, it's all there. You can slice and dice it, pull whatever you want year over year. But in going in that, we can go in and set goals to, again, say, I want to do $5 million. I want to sell X number of houses, and I want my average price point to be 350,000.
So it's specific and measurable.
Right. And again, depending on how driven an individual is, we know that, okay, we may not do a ton of business January, February, historically, if you compare all the months. March, so maybe your numbers are like only 5% of your transactions might come from January, February, and then it bumps up big time for the spring season and so on. So it gets really again, it gets very specific down to the month. If you want.
Then what about the A? What's the A stand for? And I know this is elementary for some people, maybe for most people, but I'll just jump in.
But you know what?
It's achievable.
We all have to be reminded of these things, and the achievable part of things. And you and I were listening to Tony Robbins just a couple months ago, right?
So real quick, hey, can I sidetrack on that, because I forgot to mention this.
Do it.
Totally forgot to mention this. So I just met Kevin. Was it in August? Was it? We were in August.
Well, we've talked on the phone, but never shook hands.
Never shook hands and never saw each other's face, right? So it was in Dallas, Texas. We were at an EXP event, and Tony Robbins was there. And of course, during the regular seminar event, people were there, but people wanted to get that best seat in the house for Tony Robbins. So I was going up to a row to get into the row, and I wasn't on the end. I usually like the end. But I know I've gotten smart over the years that these seats are all connected. I'm like, you don't want to be sitting like this. So you want a little more space. So I bump into this guy who I find out is Kevin, and it's Shelly Johnson's husband. And Shelly is like in my upline, so to speak. And I'm like, I'm just trying to loosen the chairs. And he's like, what are you doing? I'm like, I'm trying to loosen the chairs. And he goes, excuse me? And I'm like, dude, I'm just trying to make it easier for everybody, And he's looking at me like I got 5 heads. And I'm like, this guy, I'm trying to get motivated and see Tony Robbins be inspired. This guy's going to get me in a fight. So anyway,
I'm sitting there wondering who's moving my cheese.
Not my chair, but my cheese, right? I wonder who the hell is this? And then I find out within seconds, oh, that's Shelly's husband.
Yeah. And so it was funny. It was super funny, but but like you said, it was all about everybody's doing the mad rush to get the best seats. And it's like, got mine, don't mess with my seats.
don't move my cheese. Chair. So anyway, that's how I mentioned. So I know call that digression again, but go ahead. So
so the other one being achievable, but that one to me is, we could talk all day on that one, because I think there's a lot of people that they lower expectations of themselves. They again had the same conversation today. It's like if you did 3 million as an agent last year or in 2021, And if somebody said, I want you to do 9, you might look at them like they got 3 heads, right? And but when we have this mindset that I'm a $3 million agent, we're going to continue to be a $3 million agent. If we start thinking like, I am a $9 million agent and I just have to figure out the things that need to be done to be a $9 million agent, you start thinking differently, you start doing things differently. And so the A in SMART is achievable. And again, that's a really big question, because the reality of it is, can an individual do 9 million? Absolutely. Can an individual do 20 million? Absolutely. Right? It's just a matter of what you decide you want to do and how you're going to go about doing it. Because I think with anybody, the 2 big things that I really say in today's world that people should be looking at is not only their volume, which is going to lead to their income, but also they got to look at their time, because that might come in here as well.
Yeah, well, so that's going to almost like segue right into the R, which is it's reasonable or reachable, or
Relevant.
Relevant. There you go. Relevant. See,
Yeah.
See, I just had my little setback there too, right?
Oh, good.
We all need this. So it's irrelevant. But so let's go back to the A, because you said if you may be a 3, can you be a 9? Can you be? Yeah. But sometimes I like to think, is that R reasonable? Is it reasonable? Like, so if you sold 3 houses this year and you say my goal is to sell 40 next year or 50 next year, you better figure out the gap. You better really figure out that gap. And like you just said, what am I going to have to do? What's it going to take for me to go from 3 to 9, or from 5 houses to 20 houses, or 10 to 50, whatever? There's something you got to change, because what you're doing isn't getting you there. So you have to be really ready and willing to take those steps and I'll just say fight that fight, or sacrifice what you have to sacrifice to get there. But then it's got to be relevant. And what does that mean? Tell me a little more about that, Kevin.
So it could be that when we're creating some of these goals, there are things that might not, as you said in the very beginning, some people may not really know how to write goals. Okay. And when you start looking at those, some people might start putting stuff down on paper that they want, but they're not relevant towards their bigger picture. They may not be something that's going to feed to it. So let's just say, I don't know, you might go to a networking group every week. Okay. Well, if it's literally a networking group of mostly other realtors, how many referrals are you going to really get from that? So that goal itself might not really be relevant for what you're wanting to do. So if your goal is to go from 3 to 9 and you're standing around with a bunch of other real estate agents, they're probably not going to give you deals. And I'm talking about ones in your local area. You may have other things that they might be good and they might be admirable. Like you may say, I want to switch my contract platform, or I want to switch my database. It may not really be a relevant thing towards your bigger goal. Picking up the phone 30 times a week will literally move your career ahead, or 30 more times a week. If you want to, find a way to instigate, it's one of my favorite words. If you want to find a way to instigate 20 new leads coming to you every month, that is literally going to help you propel your career. So, we've got to pick stuff that's going to move the needle. Again, one of my favorite things. It's like we can do stuff, but unless it's going to move the needle, get it off your plate.
There you go. And then let's go into the T. And then we got some other stuff to talk about. What's the T?
We got other stuff to talk about?
Absolutely.
Okay.
We're going to elaborate a little more. Let's just put it that way.
Okay. So time-based being the other one. And that's where I was saying earlier is we can geek out a little bit, or we can get super specific if you want. Like I said, taking that $5 million number or $9 million number and break it down by month. Like I want to do this much this month, this much this month. And, Shelly and Craig have a woman on their team that, she's very number oriented. And it's funny, she'll look at her number, and when it's not what she wants it to be, boy, I'm telling you one thing, she pedals like crazy to make sure that, and it's funny, just yet this past weekend, I think it was, this past weekend, she wasn't happy with her number. And I think she's either got 3 or 4 contracts that are going to come from this past weekend, and they're good, solid, like good houses.
So she got motivated because she wasn't on track or on pace to hit her number in a timely fashion.
Yep. And she's already got her number for next year. And it's a bigger number than this year. And she had a phenomenal year this year.
So, what's interesting about that, and I guess I can speak from, what's the word, autobiographically here. Like, so last year we had a number. I've been in this business I'm in my 21st year, and I got a small team, but last year was the first year I broke 30 million. And, I've been in the 20 to 30 for a long time. And that's pretty good for, for an individual, for a small team, whatever, that you're doing pretty well. Right. And we were average about 100 deals a year. And so we end up at 36.5 million last year. And I'm sitting there at the end of the year. I'm like, all right, I've always wanted to do 150 deals. And I want to get to, 40 million. Right. So I set the goal, and the goal was end up being 41 million and change. Right. And at the end of last year, I'm like, how in the heck am I going to do that? And I'm like, you start doubting yourself. Like, I did 36.5 this year. And it's my best year ever. And I busted my rear end. How am I going to exceed that? How am I going to do it? And I'm like, Rob, just do your thing, do your activities, focus on what you need to do, and let the results speak for themselves. Kevin, I had a meeting with a guy this morning talking about tracking. I pulled up my numbers. I'm at 99.7% of that goal as we sit here today, and we have 5 more closings for the year.
Congratulations.
So I say that not to say, hey, look at me. I say that.
Oh, come on, man! I see you over there doing this.
I can't reach that far. No, but the point I'm making is, you have to have a why behind it. I want more time with my family, and I want to travel more. I experienced some things this year I never experienced before, from like a spiritual nature thing. And I'm like, holy cow! And I want more of that. And so when you want more of something, if you want to get there, what do you need to do to get there? And you push and you work and you struggle and you fight and you do all this. You do what you got to do to get there, and within reason, obviously. But I'm like, holy smokes, we're at 41 million this year. And now I'm going to sit here and say, next year I want to be 50 million. How am I going to get there? Right. So with the how, you figure out the why and let the how take care of itself. But there are some things you have to do, which are the hows, correct?
And it's interesting. Have you ever met or read the book Relentless?
Oh, I just read it this year.
Okay. So I don't know. So, sometimes there's certain places that resonate with different people. And I can't remember if this part was in a book or it was in an interview with Tim Grover, which was the author of the book. And for those of you who don't know, he was an exterior coach for Michael Jordan and Kobe Bryant, and among others, but those are two of the more notable ones. And the interviewer asked Tim Grover in an assumptive way, so I guess Michael Jordan and Kobe were the 2 most gifted and talented players that you've coached. And he said, not by a long shot.
By a long shot.
I mean, think about it for a minute. It's like, Michael Jordan, literally powerhouse that everybody else is basically compared to. Kobe Bryant, same kind of thing. And this guy flat out said they were not the most gifted and talented players he's ever coached. What he did say was that, he used Kobe as an example. He said he actually applied himself more than any other player. He said they'd show up at the gym, I think at 5 a.m. to get practice started. Kobe's already been there since 3.
Yeah. He talked about how he would take 1,000 shots a day. I think he would tell.
Something like that.
Yeah. So that was, I would highly recommend that book to anybody.
And I started the second book, but I've not finished it yet. I've just
Winning.
got so many other, yeah.
Winning is, that's another good book. Now, there are some things that I don't agree with everything. Let's say, great book. It's whatever your philosophy is. But he says in there, you're a cooler, a cleaner, or a closer. That's what he says in there. And we want to be closers. That's what we want to do. We want to be closers, right?
And
I have that right. I think I have the order right.
I think actually cleaner is the one you want.
Cleaner. So it's cooler, closer, cleaner.
I think it's cleaner. But But ultimately, when you look at the definitions, cleaners are the ones that make it happen. Like Michael Jordan as an example.
No, it is cleaner. You're right. I just looked it up.
Is it? All right. I got something right today.
Yeah.
But you know, it like one of his definition of cleaner is it's somebody who just makes it work. You know, and you know, basketball team, it's a team. There's no one person that's going to make that team. One person cannot play against an entire, you know, one person cannot play against another team. It takes a team playing against another team. And he would help raise the other ones up.
Oh, yeah.
Michael Jordan would, you know.
But Jordan wasn't successful until he raised them up. Remember that? He says that in the book. You know, Jordan was great, but he wasn't winning those 5-6 championships on his own. It wasn't until he said, hey, come on, guys, let's do this together, that's when they started winning championships.
And you think about this for a minute. Some of the folks listening to this might think, well, I don't have a team, it doesn't matter. Okay. And I've never met a real estate agent who didn't have a team, because you have a closing attorney, you have lenders, you have inspectors, you know, I can go on and on and on with this list. And kind of like what we're talking about here, you know, and again, use an example, Shelley and Craig, they have a preferred list of vendors that they want their team to work with. And there's one primary reason why. They get those clients to the table stress-free. They make transactions easy. So whether you're an individual agent or you're you have a team, you got to look at the people that you work with and think about who gets us to the closing table seamlessly, easily, and everybody's happy. Yeah. You know, I've always liked lenders that do all their work on the front end. You know, you don't want an angry client the week before closing because they're trying to scramble to find all these documents, or, you know, they're worried they're not going to get their loan. You want them going into it where they did all their work 3-4 months ago, and we're just easy peasy and we're ready to break a bottle of champagne going to closing, you know?
That's right. Have a blast doing it, right? So let's go back to that book, Relentless. So he says cooler, closer, or cleaner. And I'm going to read this thing. He said, coolers are good, closers are great, cleaners, people such as Michael Jordan, Kobe Bryant, Dwayne Wade, they're unstoppable. So the question is, like, when you have your goal and if your why is strong enough, are you going to be a cleaner? Are you going to be unstoppable to get to that goal? And that doesn't mean step on everybody else's toes to get there, but that means what are you going to do to clean that up and get there to your goal, and how important it is to you.
And I want to ask you a question real quick. I have my own answer to this, but if there was one word or phrase that described a phenomenal real estate agent, like they possess this quality, or you could describe them as this thing, what would it be?
Man, you put me on spot here.
Well, you hit me with smart earlier, so.
So if there's one quality in an agent, would you say, what was your word? A
word or a phrase that you could say this about them, or you could say it's a quality that they have.
You know, I think about that. Are they listening more than they're talking? Are they listening, and are they asking great questions of their clients? Are they service-minded? Those things. Am I looking to serve you? Am I looking? So I tell people, I know I didn't give you one word or phrase, but what I tell people, like when I'm on an appointment, and like say somebody, I go in and I think I'm going to get a listing to sell, and somebody says, well, you know, I might rent. And you could be in the back, you're like, oh man, I thought I was going to get 3% on a $500,000 sale. That's out the door. Now I'm going to get $1,000 or $1,200 because I'm renting it. Are you thinking that? Or are you thinking, okay, you know, Kevin, I know I came out here, we talked about selling your house, and now you mentioned renting. My job for you is to give you all the information to help you make the best decision for you. So to me, that's coming from a service. Are you service-minded for your client? So my mission statement is to love, care, and serve. So if you're an agent that loves, or you're an agent that cares, and you're an agent that's willing to serve, that's what I would call remarkable.
Okay.
That was pretty damn.
You like that? You should record that.
What about you? What's your word or phrase? Or
So
dissertation, as I put it.
I actually, one of the words that, or phrases that I like, that I think any person can possess it, and it can be a superpower, and maybe an overlooked superpower. Some people might think, well, I'm not the kind of person that's going to walk into a room and do this. I'm not this, I'm not that. But you can take pretty much any person who's passed a real estate exam, and if they are a good or great problem solver, they're going to be a great real estate agent. Because you think about it for a minute. Somebody comes to you and says, I want a house for 300,000 in this area, 4 bedrooms and an acre. What are you doing? Solving a problem,
Yeah.
right? You want to get somebody to closing? It's nothing but a series of problems that need to be solved between here and closing. Everything. So it's like, if you look at it as an opportunity to get that person to the table, which quite honestly, everything that you just said, your 3 things, the last one being serve, it might be tomato, same thing.
Yeah.
It might be your way of looking at it. My way of looking at it is, if you're a great problem solver, you're going to be a cleaner.
That's good stuff, man. Let's combine it too, right? It's good stuff. That is great stuff. I love that.
I like to bring it back around.
And it'll come full circle, right? So that's good. So now everybody, here it is again, December 14th. We got 17 days left of the year. If you haven't thought about your goals, or if you haven't written them down, you need to get working on it. You don't want, it's like, okay, we start work at 9 o'clock today. Do you show up at 9, or do you show up ready at 9? Right? So January 1st, are you showing up January 1st and write your goals down on January 1st, or are you showing up ready to attack those goals on January 1st? So right now, I think people should be thinking about, what do they want to do next year? What do they want to accomplish? Who do they want to become? And quite frankly, one of the systems I use, Kevin, is Darren Hardy's Living Your Best Year Ever. I don't know if you ever heard of it. So he's got a journal.
I know of it. I'm not super familiar with it, but I know of it.
I thought you could say you weren't crazy about it, but anyway,
No.
So me and 2 of my friends, we've been doing this for 10 years. We're finishing our 10th year in a row doing this together. And what we do, the way you started out is you look back and see what you accomplished the year before. You look back and see maybe your 3 biggest successes, your 3 biggest struggles, your 3 things that you did best, the 3 things you need work on, the 3 things you need to stop. So you do a what's the word? A reconciliation maybe of the mind, and like, okay, what do I need? Reflection is the word, not reconciliation. I'm not sorry for what happened last year. Reflecting on what happened for last year. Thank you for the correction there, Coach.
Oh, no, that's all good.
So this is raw, right? It's in the raw. So
Right.
So anyway, it's like so you have to use what happened in the past to see where you are now, then to look where you want to go. So people really need to be writing down now, what did I accomplish last year? And the problem is, if you sit here now and you haven't written down it anywhere at all, everything you've done during the year, now you got to go back and think, okay, what did I do? What did I do? Or let me go back and look at my phone and all the pictures I have, and that'll remind me what I do. So it's a system where I basically, you could say, I keep daily or weekly tracking of my wins, my losses, my aha moments, the lessons I've learned, what I'm grateful for. And we track this all year long, and it comes to the culmination of the year end. And then you celebrate what you've accomplished, you celebrate who you've become. And then you're like, all right, let's go get next year now. And that's what we're doing. And this is the time right now to really reflect on what you've done and think about where you're going, but get it done now, and don't start January 1st. Oh, my New Year's resolution is to blah, blah, blah. Have something ready to go and get cooking.
So what was the word that you liked better than accountability?
Capability.
Capability. So, I am a believer that we are our own toughest critic. And I think whether you look at it as a self-accountability or self-capability or what have you, in a sense, that's what you're doing, because you're going back, and like, if you look at your own performance and you see, and it was funny because I used to, one of the toughest things I've ever done, believe it or not, was when I started speaking in public and delivering seminars and things like that. And this will date things a little bit, but we would have a recorder in the back of the room, and I'd record the whole thing, and I'd take the VHS tape home, and haven't seen those things in a while, have you? But I'd take the tape home and I'd put it in, and I'd watch my own presentation. And the funny part was I'd have people giving me like all 4s and 5s, right? And then I'm looking at it going, these people were drunk. That was terrible, but it's because I'm harder on myself than other people are on me, kind of thing. And I think that like that exercise that you're going through, I'm guessing, it's a self-assessment of, what did you do? And I think that's one thing that I will say most people miss, is looking at the good stuff that happened. And I think in today, and this is kind of the downside of what I said a minute ago about really good real estate agents are problem solvers. Well, what do problem solvers look for? Problems, right?
Yeah.
But we got to look for the good wherever we can find it. And anybody, if you're still alive, you've had good, right? You woke up this morning. Not everybody gets to do that. And, finding the good, if you did it, last year, markets shifted, things were different, that, listings could have been measured in hours, not days or weeks. So, getting listings were tough. How many listings did you have? Did you successfully sell X number of listings last year? Well, some people didn't have that, right? You grew your team last year. That was a win. There are other people that slid backwards. Some people, if they actually, and it's interesting because you think back a minute, when COVID first hit, okay, let's count our blessings for a minute. When COVID first hit, a lot of real estate agents thought their industry was on hold.
Yeah.
We got a distance. We can't show houses. We can't this, we can't that, and cleaners made it happen, didn't they?
Yes, sir.
We find a way, one way or another. We figure it out.
Yeah. Well, you just said the words right there, figure it out. You got to figure it out. And they say that's what good salespeople do. They figure things out.
Yeah.
And whether you're a salesperson or not, you got to figure it out. Figure out, be resourceful and figure out what you need to do to get to where you want to go. Wouldn't you agree with that?
And that I do. And that's one of the other reasons why I like using the word problem solver, because there's a lot of people that get into this industry and I think they like the idea of being a real estate agent, but they don't really want to be a salesperson. Like that's
sure
kind of like an ugly word.
Yeah. Well, yeah, it's exactly right. It's either an ugly word or they don't like you said, they don't like to be thought of a salesperson, because the salesperson, okay, you're just looking to do a sale for the transaction and not the relationship, which is wrong. And we do that.
But if you're known as Rob, the guy who makes things happen, you'll be doing all kinds of deals.
You make it happen. Figure it out. You make it happen, right? Let's make it happen. So hey, right. Kev, let's wrap this up here. We've been on here about 40 minutes or so. Let's wrap it up, because I could talk this stuff all day, and I sense you could too. And I kind of alluded to it already. So people have gotten on this call. Some people are already writing goals. Some people know how to write goals. Some people are just learning how to write goals based on what we talked about. Well, if somebody's sitting there right now thinking, I don't know what to do next. First step, tell them, what do you think they should do?
Well, they heard us talking about SMART goals. I would 100% follow that. I would take that and be your run through those. I would definitely say whatever you think you should write, make that number bigger.
Yeah, there you go.
Okay, make the number bigger, because again, like the example I used this morning, if you did 3 last year, think of these 2 scenarios. You did 3 last year or this year, and you say, I want to do 5, and you hit 5. Good for you. But if you said, I did 3 last year, and I'm going to set my target at 9. We're not talking about crazy numbers. We're not talking about something an individual agent can't do, right? But you shot from and moved your goal from 3 to 9. Let's say you only come in at 7. Which scenario would you like to live through? Would you like to look back and say, I did 7 million in real estate, or 5?
I'd be happy to, I'd be 7.
Right, right. So it's kind of my point is like you set your goals low and you hit them versus you set them really high and you come in maybe a little bit short. Maybe you never know.
Yeah, but what's
Right.
important in that, Kevin, is who you became and what you learned and how you overcame the challenges to get to that point.
And I'm going to couple that with who do you surround yourself with?
Right.
Because
Exactly.
there are you, and I know some of the people who are going to listen to this, whether they insert themselves into impact or they have other people, is there are a handful of people that are less than 6 degrees of separation, probably 1 to 2 degrees of separation, who possess the know-how for you, the individual, to go from 3 to 9 or whatever your number is. There are people out there who know, just like you and I are probably going to talk Sisu when we get done. There are people who know things out there, right? And those people have the capacity to help you go from this number to that number. And it's a matter of how relentless you are in getting the answers for you to get to your big number.
Relentless, resourceful, and the people you hang around with. They say, Jim Rohn says you're the average of the 5 people you hang around with. And
100% correct.
it is. It is. So
So
hang
get
around
off
some
social
good.
media.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Yeah, well, although we're on social media right now.
I know.
It's all good. It's all good. It's got to serve its right purpose, right? So you surround yourself with good people, reflect on where you've been, and focus on where you're going. So
Yes,
I
sir.
think there's some good things. Good. I think that's good pieces of advice here. I hope you would agree with that, unless you want to add something.
Pete, no, I think it's it. You recapped it.
You're the coach and you're the consultant, so I'm
Yeah,
going to rely on
and
you.
you've been in the industry for a few years too, so I think you might know a thing or two.
Just a few. So, hey, Kevin, I don't know if we end it with like, if you do coaching consulting, I don't know if anybody, you would open yourself up to if anybody wants to get a hold of you or talk to you directly. Is there a way they can reach you?
Yeah, I mean, I have a Facebook page, Instagram page, both Leverage Consulting. You can get a hold of me, 704-818-6131. Otherwise, Rob's got my number, and if you know him, he'll get you in touch with me too.
It's all good. Hey, Kevin, thanks so much for this past 45 minutes, man. I think it's great information. Energy levels up here now. It's here now. You just raised it up, man. Thank you for the inspiration. I appreciate you. Appreciate everybody tuning in. And if you need to get a hold of me and ask me any questions about that, please feel free to reach out to me. And until then, everybody have a happy holiday season. Merry Christmas, Happy Hanukkah, and all the holidays that are out there. Bless you. And, we look forward to an awesome 2022. Thanks so much.
Absolutely. Thank you, Rob.
Take care, Kevin. I'll see you. Bye-bye.